Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Taylor Seminars. I'm Hannah, your co-host, here with Exquisite, my co-host.
Hi,
And
Hannah.
hi, and we've come up with a tagline, which is Welcome to the Taylor Seminars, where we talk about how Taylor Swift turns life into poetry. Sounds good, right?
Ooh, chills. It's
I know. Thank you, Mr. Kelsey, for the inspiration.
yeah. Um, I was gonna say right before we started recording, I'm wearing my Speak Now cardigan right now. Because everyone keeps saying that um how TTPD is going to be like red coded, like her first real heartbreak. And I'm getting a lot, it's gonna be a bit more Speak Now coded than people are expecting.
Ooh, explain.
Okay, because especially like you know how in the Speak Now TV prologue, she was like there was a lump in her throat, she can finally talk, and it was called Speak Now because she was finally like, she was taking control of her voice and she was actually speaking. And I feel like that's kind of what we're about to see. And Speak Now is a very angry album.
Very,
And I feel like Taylor's got a lot of anger she's about to let loose. And she's got a lot. I think this is going to be maybe her, like, imagine if Speak Now was older and more like refined in the theme it's going for.
are you just talking
And
about woulda, coulda, shoulda?
yeah, well, yes. Well, yes. Well, yes. But yeah, but imagine if it was like more streamlined. And again, what if could have nobody told her to sing that song.
Yeah.
And she did in reference to TDBD. So that's why I'm like, I'm getting guy who has only ever listened to one Taylor Swift album. I'm getting Speak Now vibes from this.
Well, we are coming to you just a couple hours after Taylor dropped her five heartbreak playlists. And so everyone's been clamoring for some opinions. And we had
Yeah,
already planned to record a podcast today to talk about.
she's digging in our purse, Hannah. She's in our
So
bags.
if you don't know, Exquisite and I, mostly Exquisite, came up with this
Hannah,
idea.
I was talking Hannah's ear off, so don't let
Okay,
her.
that is true. But where she basically came up with these five playlists where she made new versions of Midnight's the album and slotted them into different um mini albums. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Hold on. I had them pull up and then my phone was like, what if we turn off? But basically, I was thinking about, and this happened, y'all. This happened like 6 months ago. It was
Hmm.
November. And I was explaining why Midnight's is album of the year. And so I had split it into these categories: Midnight's the excuses, the warnings, the is it my fault, the reflections, and then finally you'll be okay. And for my excuses, I was kind of like, well, I'll just read the description. I said these songs are excuses of, well, this relationship is okay, but it's is not okay, but it's better than XYZ. It's good because it's precious. It's still good because we are ignoring. And
Hmm.
this was all me like trying to evaluate Midnight's through the lens of a very quickly deteriorating relationship.
Yep.
And so then with like the warnings, she was just shooting off gunshots. She was like, look, danger is coming, act quickly. And then, well, we know what happens when those warnings are ignored. And then like the is it my fault chapter for me was like, I was like, these are songs where it's kind of like Taylor looking inward and being like, well, am I doing something? What am I doing wrong here? And then the reflections was like reflecting on the past relationships and like recontextualizing them. And then you'll be okay was kind of like the speaker's gonna be fine, the singer's gonna be fine. And by the singer, I mean Taylor. And before Hannah, before I would me and Hannah were talking about this and we were trying to decide what we were going to do because Taylor has mentioned, and this she mentioned it in the Reputation prologue, where she's like, my songs are more than just a paternity test. However, I think it's fine if we address the very obvious muse, the very obvious
Hmm.
elephant in the room. So sometimes we will say Joe by name, but sometimes we'll just say like we'll use poetry talk and be like the muse or the person the narrator is
Yeah,
talking
the
about.
partner or whatever. Um,
Yeah. All I'd say, Taylor was digging in our bag because she was in,
No, it's
she decided to release playlists.
if you look at the way that Exquisite, I guess, ordered the playlist, it's very similar to how Taylor ended up using kind of the five stages of grief, which apparently she shoehorned once she saw that a lot of Swifties were super into it. She
Yeah.
herself was
She
like,
was
"All
like,
right,
oh, wait.
cool. Like, yeah, that sounds great." And we were all hoping for her to drop something. And lo and behold, five little teasers of
Yeah.
voice notes where
Ugh. And it's a fortnight before the album
yeah, so
comes out.
she was ready. And yeah, so we'd love to go through these playlists with you guys. We'll also obviously talk about how our playlists kind of meld in with them. A lot of them do match. And
Yeah,
so
she's kind of sick.
and I think it's because if anything to me it shows that we're not that crazy when we go through her music and we're
Exactly.
analyzing them. If we do it in a smart way, in a way that really does look at the music, you can find things and see the connections that she's making. Clearly she has the best connections, but we can still follow along. And so
Yeah, we're not basically just say we're not nuts and we're reaching levels of parasocial never before seen. She's just charging us up.
but yeah, let's start with the first one. So the I Love You, It's Ruining My Life songs. And
Oof.
so this one is the Denial. Um, and this is the one where she starts with Lavender Haze. Any thoughts about this play?
Well, first of all, Lavender Haze being a denial song was literally also the first song on that playlist. That was my like the denial playlist that I
Yep.
had. Um, and it's such a cope. And then she also deleted her Lavender Haze music video, like explanation video.
Yes, on Instagram.
Um, and it's just so interesting for her to start there because Lavender Haze opens up with like everybody wants in um and they only think I want to be a wife, but actually I'm just fine the way our relationship is right now, right here. As long as I have you and we're in love, everything is okay.
Yeah,
Spoiler, everything
is not
was
okay.
not okay.
And for those of you who know, a lot of people have actually connected this song to I Think He Knows. They sonically are very similar. And
Hmm.
obviously, in that song, has that famous line, if he doesn't lock it down, I won't stick around because good ones never wait. And so, I
Yep.
mean, the
It's
juxtaposition.
it's crazy. No, like it's kind of nuts. And then yeah, because she really was, it was like she was coping with something. And I'm scared to what song. I'm like kind of scared that she's going to do a trio of opening songs and it's gonna also connect to Fortnite or one of the songs on TTPD
Mhm.
that's gonna directly reference Lavender Haze. I'm
Oof.
scared.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
fearing.
some of these songs on the list that stick out to me are things like Glitch, right? A
Ooh.
very a song about them being stitched together.
Hmm.
Willow, um, and also and False God. One of my friends, Ariana, who's at Runaway Swift Me, mentioned that a lot of these are like these songs that are very sexy, like Glitch and False God being very sexy
Yes,
songs, and
yes.
those being on this playlist.
And what we know about Joe and Taylor's relationship, we're adults here. We know for a fact it started with them having sex. Literally, Glitch tells us that. She was like, oh, we're just playing cat and mouse. We're just hooking up. And then they fell in love. We know for a fact it started with sex.
Yes. And it seems like sex was something that held them together.
See false god.
Yeah.
See the like well, I've talked with you about this, so let me see if I can get it out in words on our little platform here. But it's kind of like all well, I'm literally about to go straight to the lyrics to have as evidence. But quite literally, she's like, we're crazy to think that we can make this work. We're going back and forth. You are not looking you don't want to fight with me, or and they're like fighting or whatever. And she's like trying to push him away, he's pushing her away, and she's like, "Well, guess what? As long as we have our sexually intimate relationship, that means we also have us, which means
Hmm.
we're fine."
Hmm.
And I think we're gonna see sex come up in a big, big way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a way to give yourself plausible deniability, right? Like it's not broken because we have this thing. And the other songs that
Mm-hmm.
kind of give me that vibe to of like that icky vibe is like Treacherous. Like that song is very sexy as
Mm-hmm.
well. And then
Glitch.
yeah, and then I saw someone on the timeline being, why is Untouchable on here? And I was like, oh, because it's this, I think that and Snow on the Beach are very much this idea of like this person I think and I hope is the right one for me. And what if I don't find someone better? What if, this person, your integrity makes me feel small? That'll come back later, right?
We're
Like,
gonna we're gonna circle back to that.
right? Like, they're untouchable, right? They're magical. Like the scene is like a movie scene, right? Like I've never
Yeah.
seen someone lit from within. And so there's that also that I have something special. Isn't it special? Like it's special.
Isn't it special? Which,
Yeah.
speaking of, isn't it special? And we have to talk about Sweet Nothing being on this list because we've talked about this in detail. Okay, first of all, um, let me preface all these things, like even these playlists that Taylor have has made, does not mean you cannot still take them for what they are as love songs, because a lot of them can still be very beautiful love
Yes.
songs. Uh, it just means that now we can look at them all in a different light. And also, sometimes we as people, and especially like as creators, and I know this because I am also a writer, um, you don't know what you're writing about, or if you're trying to parse through a situation that you didn't even realize you were trying to parse through and you didn't realize you were struggling with until you've already written it and it's out there, and you go back later and you were like, I didn't even realize this was
Hmm.
stressing me out until I like re-looked at it. But that doesn't say you can't still look at these as love songs, but they're interesting ways to like scavenger hunt through how did we get here.
Yeah, I
Um,
think when we look at a piece of art or text, there's the what does it mean at the moment? And then you can
mhm,
always do what does it mean as you look back.
yeah.
Can both be in we can look at both of them and hold them together.
Yeah, we're
Those
humans. Humans are
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah,
We
so
can
even
we
a song like
contain both.
Lover being on
Hmm.
here, right? Like it doesn't mean that she didn't love him or that it wasn't a beautiful love, but
And it
maybe
doesn't
there
mean it's not a wedding song anymore. It's
exactly. It
still a
should
wedding
still
song.
be a great wedding song. But I think for Taylor looking back, be like, hey, maybe some of these things that I was worried about or concerned about in this song, those were some of the things that blew up chemistry till there's no us, et cetera, et cetera.
Literally chemistry till it blows up till there's no us. But on Sweet Nothing, because I realize we just digress a little, and you're gonna see me and Hannah doing that a lot if you're listening to this. We were talking about how Sweet Nothing opens with I'm just gonna read the opening verse that I spy with my little tired eye, tiny as a firefly, a pebble that we picked up last July, down deep inside your pocket. We almost forgot it. Does it ever miss Wicklow sometimes? And just that opening verse tells us everything we need to know about the current state of the relationship and what she is in denial slash trying to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
You
No, just like that idea of this pocket being completely buried, or this pebble being completely buried inside this pocket where it's she wants so badly to go back to this moment where they were happy, where the pebble was happy, but it's almost been
yeah.
lost, just forgotten.
And it says last July, so we know it's been at least a year. So it's a year forward. And she's like reflecting on July when they were in Wicklow and obviously picked this pebble, and they were like in love and like just
Hmm.
really into each other and there for one another. And now all that's left, and I think it's significant that it's a pebble, in that it's like this tiny thing that can be lost in the pockets of maybe pants or like a
A
jacket or
jacket.
whatever, like old clothes. that have currently been like cast aside. It's deep, deep down there, but it's still there. And it does it ever miss who we were last July? Does it ever miss being in Wicklow with us?
Yeah. It's and
Yeah.
yeah, you can and in the moment you could see it as very cute and beautiful and sweet. But then again, in this hindsight view, you can be like, oh, oh, oh
Yeah.
no.
And it's like both can still exist. Again,
Yes.
we're all about containing multitudes. And I don't think we have to like say it again, just so you guys know. We're contain multitudes, but right now we're gonna view everything in the lens of TTPD is coming up in a
Yes.
fortnight.
Yes. Um,
Uh,
any other thoughts
yeah.
about this playlist before we move on?
Um,
Maybe Bejeweled being the last song.
Bejeweled, the warning shot that you are. She was like, yes, I'm in denial, but this is also a warning.
Yeah.
I think it was part of her being like the denial coming in is part of her being like, I am still shiny and sparkly and I'm not just a pebble in a pocket, you know? I'm still bejeweled. I can still go out and make the whole place shimmer, even though I've given myself to this all these things and I'm still doing that. Like she's trying to be like, even in this love, I'm still there. Like she's trying to reassure herself
Yeah, I feel
that
like that being on the end is very telling because she usually puts all the midnight songs at the beginning of the playlist.
mm-hmm.
But this one I think is a little hint to us that hey, like maybe this is the moment where things started to shift for her. And this was
Yeah.
also one of the songs, the prominent song on your Warning Shots playlist, the Midnight's one that
Yes.
you did, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Bejeweled was
yeah.
prominent.
And if you've been on Tumblr, if even Twitter, like you've seen like Bejeweled as a threat come up a million times, where the most common interpretation is this is her when she was dating a previous partner and being like, I'm done with you putting me last. I'm putting myself first. I'm going to put myself out there. But once her breakup happened, it's like, oh no, maybe that was a warning shot to her partner, to the muse, being like, hey, like this is what could happen. And it
Yeah.
is very much part, I think, of the narrative of what
Yeah.
led to
Yeah.
TPPD.
And I mean, my whole thesis on Midnight is that she was using Midnight as a way to excavate her past to try and save her present. And
Right.
it did not work.
Well, it worked
Um,
in that
it
it
worked,
did work. It just didn't
but
go the way she thought it would.
it worked. It did what it had to do. But exactly, like it didn't go the way she was trying to figure out. I think it was a lot of like self-assessing, self like let me reflect that this is all in my maroon theory, which we'll circle back. We'll circle back to this to the maroon theory I have. But even with Bejeweled, she I guess it like for me, Bejeweled is like she's done it before where she's like, I am not getting what I need in this. And mind you, this was when she was a lot younger. And I also think Midnight's is important because she's like reevaluating experiences she had when she was in her mid 20s and earlier
Hmm.
before she got into the relationship with Joe. Because I don't think people are like connecting how long 6 years is. That is
Yeah,
half a decade, more
more.
than half a decade. So they were literally like her brain had just finished developing when she
Yeah,
got in that relationship. And she had been fully, she had to completely recontextualize herself as a human because of what happened in 2016 anyway. And all of that happening when she was so young is just so interesting to me that now she came out of it and out of this 6 year long relationship a grown woman. And so now she has to look back on her past and being like, as an adult and as like who I am and who I know I am, I can still bejewel.
yeah. It kind of reminds me of one of the new songs on Olivia Rodrigo's deluxe edition, whatever, like I am the girl I've always been. I think
Hmm.
there's that, yes, like we grow and we change, but at the same time, like Taylor's like, if I've bejeweled once, I am a bejeweler. I shall bejewel again.
Exactly. She's
And
not
so,
that DNA test can't be denied, but we're not here to talk about.
okay, okay. Well, okay,
Okay,
we
let's
should move
get
on. We should move on.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
The next
Wait,
one, yes.
before we move on, what's your most, you don't have to explain it, but what's your most surprising addition to I Love You, It's Ruining My Life, do you think?
looking at it right now, I think it's just because I hadn't thought about it, but it's that's when.
Hmm.
It's a deep cut, and I wonder, like, oh, like that whole idea of like figuring things out, leaving, coming back, I'll be here waiting for you. I think that's a fascinating song. How
Mm.
about you?
My most surprising one on here is maybe Hours, which I
Okay.
can understand how it can be like deluding yourself and being like, as long as we're in this bubble, it's ours. They're
Yeah.
gonna throw rocks at things that are shining and we're bejeweling together, so they're gonna throw rocks or whatever. But it's just so
Well, I
interesting.
mean, to me, it's not too surprising because both that one
Yeah.
and Superman are about most likely John Mayer,
Well,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a
Well, yeah, yeah.
terrible relationship. So
That's
I feel like it ties in with the her
I,
denial about that
it
relationship
it
too.
jump scared me a bit, and it's also leading to my thoughts on TTBD being speak now coded.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can move on to
Now
the
we can move on.
yeah,
So
sorry,
the next
sorry,
one
sorry.
is You Don't Get to Tell Me About Sad. Um, and the songs from that. And it's the songs of that are about anger. And so songs with an
Warning
edge.
shots.
Yes. So again, high infidelity is another kind of view on the Bejeweled um thing.
Hmm.
And then we have also songs like Would've, Could've, Should've, Vigilante Shit, et cetera, et cetera. Any thoughts?
Would have, could have, should have being on here is so fascinating, especially because we know when would have, could have, should have was recorded.
Yes.
And we know it happened after the Grammys, after she had to see maybe certain people in the Grammy audience and had to watch certain people perform. And we also know that because she told us she was 32 when she re-recorded Innocent and when she did Dear John, um, we know that that happened around the Grammys as well. So all of this
Hmm.
is happening all together, and then puts out the absolute like killing blow that is would have, could have, should have. And it stresses me out to no end that she sung this song
Yeah.
because in reference to because my whole thing with would have, could have, should have is and I have it on the Reflections playlist, I think, as well as the Angry playlist. I can't remember. So my Reflections one. And what stresses me out about it is that she is like, is the fact that I was traumatized in such a sensitive, delicate, traumatic way as a 19-year-old child
Hmm.
affecting how I am living in relationships today.
And that's a scary thing to ask yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because like you want to think you're over it. You want to think it doesn't
Hmm.
affect me anymore. You want to think you're grown and that person has no power over you. But for
Yeah.
her to in that headspace to be like, oh my gosh, like no, like maybe it is impacting the way that I behave in a negative way, even to this day, and I haven't unpacked it
Like
well.
it's the past is talking and screaming from a crypt,
Hmm.
which is she's like, it's not dying and it was supposed to die. Like,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting because that has a connection to the Great War with she's like there's a mention of like her past haunting the narrative of the Great War
Yeah.
as well. And specifically she mentions
Spineless in my
something.
tomb of
Oh wait,
silence.
yeah, yeah.
Or are you talking
No, no, no,
talk
no.
about Ivy?
No, hold on. No, no, no. The Great War has the past screaming from a crypt,
Oh yeah,
and
maybe it
this
was her.
could have,
Yeah, that.
should have, would have, could have, should have is the one that is like, if it's dead, like it's not dying. Why won't this die?
Yeah, if clarity's in death, then why won't this die?
Yeah, and it's haunting her, and she's waking up in the middle of the night, fighting, fight with you in my sleep. The tomb won't close. The tomb in the crypt. There you go. I had to work that out, y'all. I'm on a Taylor fast, and I'm currently experiencing whatever the musical equivalent of refeeding syndrome is when you eat too quickly.
After not eating enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so my apologies, but it's just interesting how this relationship with that man, it's not even a relationship. This event that happened to her
Yeah.
is haunting her. And the would have, could have, should have is rightfully pissed off. And like you notice she never says I should have done anything. It was
Yeah.
would have and could have for all the verses, and it's like everything that he should have done. Like he shouldn't have looked
Yeah.
over at me. He
Hmm.
shouldn't, like, I was looking at him, but I'm a teenager and he knew better.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for her to be like in her 30s being angry now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I and this is one of the things that makes me feel really, it makes me feel gross to think of, like, what is she trying to do with woulda coulda shoulda that it's going to be on TTPD? What is she trying to, like, communicate to us? Because she's saying woulda coulda shoulda.
Yeah.
And she's, what
Twice.
did she mix it with? What did she mix it with?
Oh my gosh, now you're gonna make me Google.
She mixed it with something after she announced not the black dog, I think maybe the albatross. After she announced one of them, she did a
Isn't it with Ivy?
yes,
That's why I was saying Ivy earlier.
yes, yes. And it's like I'm horrified, I think, because Woulda Coulda Shoulda is so angry and so traumatic and so, like, let me deal with this trauma, and I'm allowing myself to be angry about it now, that it's like, what, how is she connecting this to TTPD? I don't even know what song it could even be. Maybe Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. Um, that's
Wait,
my prediction.
let's go. We're
But
gonna kind of talk about.
we gotta go.
So let's talk about what else she wrote that weekend, though, at the
Oh yeah,
Grammys,
yeah,
right? So, I had a breakdown yesterday with Exquisite and my friend Ariana yesterday about realizing that she had actually written. So I knew she had written "Would Have, Could Have, Should Have" and "High Infidelity" that same weekend, but
yeah.
one
Mm-hmm.
thing that she also recorded was "Renegade." If you don't know, "Renegade" is the song she did with Big Red Machine,
Mm-hmm.
and it came out way before Midnight's, but it's had its germination kind of where
Yeah.
Midnight's also did. It's actually on
Yeah.
the next playlist, which is the "Am I Allowed to Cry" playlist, at the
Which
very end.
is oof.
Yeah, so that
And the
one,
fact that it's at the end,
yeah. So that one is about bargaining. And so I think there is something there where she, yes, had this feeling of anger with the muse for would have, could have, should have. But I also think that it's very possible that she's maybe realizing the anger from that also released emotions for her current relationship at the time, right?
yeah.
Where there is this feeling of like, maybe I've been wronged. Maybe there is something I'm fighting this from the wrong angle
Mm-hmm.
because even Renegade in a gentle way, I do think is also a little bit angry, right? The
Yeah.
language is very
Oh, it's
pointy,
pissed.
right? Like
It's,
you
it's very
fire off
dagger
missiles.
like.
Yeah, you fire off missiles because you hate
She curses,
yourself.
and I mean, she's cursing him out on there.
Yeah, would is it insensitive for me to
Get
say
your
get your
shit
shit
together.
together? Right? But and you know, you um the shape of you was jagged and weak. Like those are
Yeah.
not like very soft,
Sensitive. Yeah,
sensitive
no.
words. These are very sharp. And so I wonder if there was
Yep.
some kind of bubbling of emotion happening
Yeah.
where these all bled into or fed into each other.
And it's really interesting. And I'm gonna keep on the Renegade point, but Am I Allowed to Cry opens with the Great War, which is a battle, and ends in Renegade, which is also a
Um,
battle. Like Renegade is like on the battlefield, like literally on the battlefield. And there's
yeah.
something so interesting about Renegade in that it is, she is literally describing the battle she's having with this lover who is like trying to almost, like, they're weaponizing perhaps their depression and their sadness,
Hmm.
and the fact that it's on the Am I Allowed to Cry, like, you're doing all this crying and you're doing all this as well, but am I even allowed to do it? Like, am I gonna be able to cry here? And she's trying to bargain with them, like, don't leave me because of this. Don't make me
Hmm.
repeat your history. But also in that same song, when when our singer is like about to give up, or whenever she's like, I'm about to leave because of this, the muse squeezes her hand 3 times. You squeeze my hand as I'm about to leave.
Ugh. It's
But yeah.
it's
Also the
so
I
ugh.
know. Ah!
If you could see our faces, we're both like, ah! No,
Ah!
I mean, the squeeze my hand reminds me a lot of you squeeze my hand three times in the back of the taxi,
I
right?
know.
It reminds me, and then I've had friends say like is that like part of a love bomb, right? If we're gonna connect it to
Yeah. I
TTPD,
mean, it
this,
could be the ticking, the tick, tick, tick,
yeah.
tick, tick, which
Hmm.
I said something earlier, and I said to you, and I also tweeted, and people were like, "You're just making things up." But I'm like, bombs tick, and you know what else ticks? Clocks. And
Midnights.
she was,
No, totally.
listen, like she was waiting for that, like the clock to keep ticking, and she was searching, panicking, like looking for this clock, like searching her past or whatever. She's hearing the timer on her relationship. And she is like, if I can find it and I can stop it, I can push snooze. I can, and I low key think she probably just snoozed
A
the
little too
alarm.
long.
She
Yeah.
snoozed the alarms a little too
Yeah.
long. But it was actually a bomb. It was a it was a love bomb. She was
It's yeah.
tick 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 tick.
I mean, again, going back to same playlist, am I allowed to cry? I mean, this bargaining one is the one that's really been, I think, attacking people the hardest on the timeline. People
Mm-hmm.
talking about peace,
God,
right? People
I
talking
know.
about, I guess, yeah, we're back to peace now, right?
Oh
This
my
whole like
God, because
that
like
I'll give you my wild, I'll give you my child.
give you like she's like I will give you anything as long because the one thing I can't give you is peace, and I'm like bargaining with you over this. And it's so interesting when you connect that to Renegade as well, where she's like, I can't give you peace, but I'm trying to give you these everythings, and you want to make yourself my future history. But you're keeping me here. Like, you're not
Yep.
letting me leave you because. And then also pieces, there's something in Renegade, the line, talk about timing in
Yeah.
times like these,
Are you really gonna
that,
talk about timing in times like these and let all your damage carry me? Damage me.
yeah. And it's like, woof, the timing. Like what timing of what? Are we Lavender Haze timing? Are we like, which is a whole thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
the
it's
I wouldn't marry me either of it all.
yeah, it's we really, I think most of the fandom, I think, saw this as, like a song about, oh, like things, there are rough patches. There are obviously people who, called it out very quickly. But for me, it took me a long time. To be honest, for a long time, I thought that Taylor was singing maybe from like a different perspective because this was a Big Red Machine album. But,
Hmm.
um, but no, like it's very, very clearly like, oh no, like there was a rough time as there isn't any relationship for her. And, this was her really venting it out
Yeah.
in real time.
And I distinctly remember Aaron saying this. He said that when they were writing Renegade, they realized that it wasn't a Taylor Swift song, it was a Big Red Machine song,
Yeah.
which is it very much is giving. Taylor does this thing where she self-editorializes, and we know she does this because we see what she leaves in the vault, the things that she does not take out. Like we look at 19, we can literally look at 1989 Taylor's version, and we can see how she didn't tell us the things. She didn't tell us the now that we don't talk things, and she didn't tell us the is it over now things. She kept those in the vault because she had a story to tell, and she was editing, and sometimes it's like, is she editing to protect people? And the fact that Renegade, she didn't feel like it belonged on Evermore, and it didn't belong on Folklore. Well, it wasn't written when Folklore
It was
happened,
it was
but
written after they finished Evermore, but yes, she didn't like
yeah.
save it for her
It
album. Yeah.
yeah, she didn't save it for anything for herself because she was like, it fits more this contemplation of like losing relationships or whatever fits more with Big Red Machine and
Yeah.
with The National and with Aaron than it would on any of my albums. And it's very interesting that I think we're gonna get into more of, and this is where I'm feeling like I feel such a distinct shift with TTPD, where I think it's going to feel like a Taylor album has never felt before.
Mm.
Um, like how Renegade, because I agree with her, Renegade doesn't sound like a Taylor song.
Yeah.
Like lyrically, I know Taylor wrote this and I can hear her voice, but this it doesn't fit on anything she's done so
Yeah. The
far.
closest thing is probably Long Story Short.
Yeah.
But even then, that's a little more poppy than this song, I think. But
It's just interesting. It's a weird song. It's a weird song thematically. but also on the Am I Allowed to Cry? The piece of it all, wow. But let's the afterglow of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my thing with Afterglow, I have always loved Afterglow, but having it on this bargaining playlist, not only do I love it more, I've always loved it though. It's always been one of the best songs on Lover. Um, but the bargaining here is her being like, it's all me. It's in my head.
Hmm.
And the fact that, and she does it all throughout Lover, where she's like, I'm crazy. I'm doing too much. It's me causing the problems. And realizing that she was like, I was bargaining. Like, this is bargaining.
Yeah. And
And
I
I,
think this is also one of those ones where we can hold the two. Like it might be possible that in the
yeah.
beginning of the relationship, Taylor did need to learn how to fight well, right? Everyone in a relationship has
Hmm.
to learn how to do that. But it's also possible that looking back, it's like, well, I was a problem, maybe, but
Yeah.
you were also a problem. And so,
Yeah. Like,
um,
it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. And she's like, I can recognize that. But there is a toxicity in just being like, I'm the only one in the wrong here.
I will say the one thing I think is fascinating, which we talked about at the very beginning about I think he knows and good girls never wait. It's amazing how many of the songs in this playlist are about her waiting, right? Come
Hmm.
back, be here, come in with the rain. If this was a movie, right? Like this idea of like part of her bargaining is
Even
waiting.
Renegade.
Yeah, yeah. Coming, yeah.
Renegade and Peace being like, I will sit in the trenches with you if that's what
Hmm.
I'm waiting with you.
Yeah, and I wonder how long can one wait?
How long can we be a sad song?
Oh
How
my
long can
gosh.
we wait? You guys
Guys,
can see Hannah's
Exquisite and I,
face
that's
right now.
literally our text threads where one of us will say something and the other one will respond with a lyric from like, you're losing me or something.
And then it will just literally be oh my God, why would you say something? What is your most surprising song on Am I Allowed to Cry?
I think it's what I think it is just all these waiting songs. I think just the prolificness of the waits of
Hmm.
and even though and I think she says good girls never wait, right? But then
Hmm.
in practice, maybe she did a little too much.
All of it, even if this was a movie, is waiting. But I think maybe my surprising one would be Cornelia Street. I don't know. I feel like it's just there's
Mm.
something so interesting about Cornelia Street, never walking Cornelia Street again, and them being a blank page on the and this being like this is very substantially a breakup song, while all the other ones are not, kind of.
What do you mean?
Like, well, what I mean by this is like this is what she was like looking forward to their breakup. And it's like this in
Oh,
a bargaining is like maybe she was bargaining with herself, being like, I can't leave and we can't break up because if we break up, if this happens, I am going to die. A part of me is going to
I'm gonna
die.
lose myself. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to fix this. And I need to figure out
Oh,
how to where I can keep
girl, these are
walking
some
Cornelia
snaps. I don't know
Street.
if the microphone can pick it up. No, I think you're right. It's a bargain with herself, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't F this up because if you ever walk away, like I'll never walk Cornelia Street. I'll lose my home, right? I'm losing
Yep.
this city that screams your name.
Hmm. And then even
Oof.
in Cornelia Street, like she uses in the city that screams his name, and then we get that that like beautiful bridge on. Hold on, I'm just gonna go to it.
Yeah, I have it. I'm
The
opening it
but
up
then
here.
you called, showed your hand, walked me back to that apartment. Years ago, we were just inside, and she was like, "I don't have to imagine breakups because he's gonna show his hand for me. Like you squeeze my hand as I'm about to leave, type thing.
Oh
Like."
my gosh.
But also the whole thing about Cornelia Street, and I remember, and this is laced throughout Lover, which makes Lavender Haze and it makes You're Losing Me so sad to me, is all throughout Lover. She's doing these insinuations toward marriage and towards a forever with somebody and
Yep.
towards like sacred new beginnings that became our religion. And then
Hmm.
you take the became our religion and connect it to false God, which happens like later on the album. It's like,
Hmm. Yep. All right, let's move on before we
Okay. Okay, before we oh wait, we what was the angry one? We didn't say which one was
Oh,
our
okay. Yeah, we kind of
you
the
don't get to
angry
tell
one
me
was a
about
little
sad.
yeah,
Was that
the
what it
angry one's a little
was?
more straightforward, I think, so we didn't spend too much time on it. I no, it's
Yeah.
because I brought up Renegade. My bad. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. You're okay. You're
um
okay.
but for that one, I think let's see.
What's your most surprising one?
I mean, these are all pretty angry songs. Um
For me, I think it's got to be a combination of the last time and the
mhm.
moment I knew.
Mm,
Last time is angry, but it's also pleading. Like this is the last
yeah.
time I'm asking you to put my
Yeah,
name
you
at the
could put
top
that
of
in
your list.
bargaining
Like
too,
it's
I feel like.
it's yeah, you can put that in bargaining. You could put, and I think what Taylor was trying to do is that so many of these are so kind of not complicated, but they can contain multitudes that she wasn't trying to overlap playlists, but she could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the last time is like a precursor to Bejeweled, if we really want to think about it. Put my name at the top of your list. Like this last time I'm asking
It
you.
could also be the prelude to Exile, right? Which is also on this
Exactly. Which
playlist.
is on this playlist.
Yeah,
Okay, do you have a surprising one?
I think those are all pretty obvious to me, but I just think Bad Blood being on there is really funny. 'Cause
She's funny.
she's
She
so
is.
funny. All
Also,
right.
I before we keep going, this is
Yeah.
not anything to playlist, but I am finding it so interesting to look at the songs she left out because where is leaving like a father, running like water?
Okay.
Where are you, Cardigan?
No, so Ariana, I keep giving her up, but it's literally she said the exact same thing to me. Like you texted that to me, like literally 30 minutes later, she texted me. She's like, "Where's Cardigan?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are a little obsessed." But no, I think it's fascinating because Cardigan was her idea of the happy ending, right? Because
Yeah.
in Long Pond, she said that she thought they got back together, right?
Hmm.
Where James made his apology, and whether it's in that moment or eventually, she says that, she Taylor says that they get back together. And I'm really glad you brought this up right now, actually, is because Betty also waited, right?
Hmm.
Like she knew James
And
was
he showed up.
yeah, so he was gone that summer. She knew, right?
Hmm.
They came back to school. Inez told her everything. Like, so maybe she didn't know,
Hmm.
but she knew everything. And then come around time for her birthday, maybe in the spring, because he's skateboarding around again, right? Or something like
Hmm.
that. And uh he shows up and she takes him back, but that means she waited. Like Betty waited, right? Like, and
Yeah.
she felt like an old cardigan under someone's bed. Like she was like
Hmm.
lost, but she waited. And
And he found her again.
yeah, and so I wonder if in some alternate universe he, like that's the one
You
she was looking for. I
you
don't
know
know.
what's interesting is that the logical place Cardigan should be would be on the acceptance slash moving into new areas playlist that she has on here. The
Explain.
I can do it with a broken heart. I think that's the last one, which we'll get to that last. The logical place, that's where it should be. But I think it's really interesting that it's not there because Cardigan implicitly implies that not implicit like explicitly implies that the old lover comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Mm-hmm.
cannot have Cardigan on any of these
Mm-hmm.
because the old lover is not coming back. Like
No.
that's not a thing she's ever touching again. So
Dang.
Cardigan is not allowed to be on these playlists because
Yeah.
she's not an old Cardigan and he's not going to put her on and say that she was his
Because she's
favorite.
bejeweled.
Exactly. No, but that's why I think that I think I just answered my own question of Cardigan's not here anywhere because Cardigan does not work for her. This was her if it was going to be anywhere, it would be delusional, but it's not going to be on.
That's the
Okay.
super secret deluxe bonus edition.
Super secret deluxe.
Delusional. Uh,
Delusion. And I don't think she's even delusional in that it's giving it's giving her singing the one. It
oh.
would have been nice, but you're not the one.
Yeah.
Cardigan is the one is if the one ends with and you were at the bus stop and I saw you and we got back together.
Yeah, yeah. Is the one on any of these playlists? I don't think so.
I
I don't think so, right?
don't
It
think it
would
is
if it
either.
were. Oh, it is. It's on the I Can Do It with a Broken Heart song. Yep. There you
LOL.
go.
So
No,
exactly,
yeah, you got
exactly.
it.
The
You got it
proper
right.
ending. I got it in one. Look at that. Me and Taylor were like this. And for those
No.
of you who can see, I'm
Taylor's tapped
crossing
your
my
phone.
fingers. She really has. She's like in our walls. Okay, what's the next
All right, the next
playlist?
one is Old Habits Die Screaming, which is depression.
God.
And this one, I mean, so very famous user, Cages. What's her user? What's her at?
It's Cage, Boxes,
Cages.
Runner, Fox,
No, dang it, now I have to look it
Jamie.
up. Oh my gosh. I even like
Wait,
asked her
wait,
like
wait, wait,
how should
wait,
I okay. Cages,
wait, wait.
boxes, hunters, foxes on
There
Tumblr
we
with
go. There we
hyphens
go.
in
There we go.
between
There we
all of
go.
them. Now I don't even remember what I was gonna say that she said. Uh, but shout out to her. She has been so helpful in us formulating our thoughts. Oh, she said that she was very grateful, and so am I, about how carefully Taylor talked about this topic, which we know it can be very triggering for some during
Hmm.
her little voice note. And so if this
Yes.
is a very hard topic for you, like feel free to skip ahead. But we will be using the big D
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Big D word coming. Not the other D word,
Oh
but
my gosh.
the
Way to lighten the mood.
no, but it's very interesting how in her 30s Taylor is very open about talking about her own depression and dealing with that. And this Gold Habits Die Screaming opening up with Bigger Than the Whole Sky stresses me out so bad. I don't even talk about it.
Is
But I
that you
will
really
if I
don't
need
want to?
to.
Yeah, like
No,
I was
I
gonna
mean
say.
I will, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this song is such a sad song. I mean, I was talking to Exquisite about it earlier, so I'm just gonna literally refer to my text. But I think there's this feeling of being completely helpless and hopeless and seeing the world spread out in front of you and not being able to do anything, like just literally
yeah.
crying so hard that it's just streaming down your face into your ears. Maybe you're lying down or something. But
Hmm.
and then what I said is like, is she saying goodbye to a side of herself? Like, is she like
Yeah.
waving goodbye to like a part that she was hoping would live longer or
Yeah.
something?
And then it's like, is because like, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but Bigger Than the Whole Sky and including this playlist in general and what that means for TTBD and like how everything she's like, these are things that were adding to my depression and my sadness. And like, there was something that she felt so dearly she had no choice but to write the song, and it obviously must have affected their relationship in some
Yeah.
way. I'm not implying anything other than something bad or something that caused her to feel such big traumatic emotions affected the relationship. Um, and that's almost with that. I'm like, but you know what I mean, Hannah.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good segue into the Dear Reader of it
Yes,
all.
that's exactly what I was. The dear reader of it
So,
all.
okay, you need to tell everybody your two endings for Midnight's
Oh,
analysis because
okay, okay,
that'll
okay,
I think that'll cover it really well.
okay. So Midnight's the album
The
has
album of the
the
year.
ending on the album of the year. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. That's her fourth one. Anyway, um, Midnight's has two endings. Midnight's has the good ending, and then
Hmm.
Midnight's has the bad slash actual ending that we ended up in. This is the bad timeline. Well, define bad timeline. This is the bad timeline of that relationship. But Taylor is super lighter than we've seen her. Um,
Totally.
which is a thing. Hold on. Wait. Speaking of light, but no, in Mastermind, she's like setting up these things. She's like telling us about what she, I think, considers her worst attribute, that she is calculating and has
Hmm.
been that way since
Hmm.
she was a child and since she was friendless. Um, as a way as her defense mechanism, and she's setting all of this up, and then there's a beautiful twist on the bridge where she's like, but he knows,
Yep.
or you knew, when what she does on stage and she points at everyone in the audience. And she's like,
Love it.
you knew the entire time that I was a mastermind and now you're mine. And so she was like, he may know that he knows all these bad things about me, everything horrible. Tell me everything horrible you've ever done. I'm quoting something and I've already forgot what I'm quoting. It's something, and
It's
I'll
fine.
probably remember in a second. But he knows all these horrible things and he doesn't care because he knew the entire time and it
Hmm.
was lovely. And we knew the entire time. We know
Hmm.
who Taylor is. And she's pointing at us on stage and she's like, you knew I'm a mastermind and you guys are mine. Like, you are my fans, you're my people, you're my love, or whatever. So that's the good ending. Like, after
What we
all of this,
originally got, and we were like,
yeah,
"Woo! Standard
yeah,
release."
yeah. After all of this, like, pure vulnerability on an album of her being like, my relationship's falling apart. She's like, it's okay because we see each other.
Hmm.
And then she's like, LOL. Anyway, so me and Aaron were talking.
I was just hanging out with my good friend Erin.
I was just hanging out with my good friend Aaron. Um,
Wrote a
her and
couple
Aaron were
things.
talking, but
Well,
she brings Jack.
isn't
It's
Dear
Jack
Reader still
producing
Jack?
this. Jack is producing this, but I bring Aaron up because we got a whole pile of Aaron productions that lead
Okay, yeah,
into
yeah,
this
yeah.
Jack production. So she's like, me and my good friend Aaron were talking about this ending me and Jack came up with at the beginning. And he told us to go back to the drawing board because
I got you.
Dear Reader is is the actual real world ending of
Hmm.
you don't know what you don't know. You need to find another guiding light because I am going home sobbing, drinking way too much. Just and then she like literally lays out to all of us all her bare destructive tendencies
Hmm.
where she is like, actually, I'm gonna pull up the lyrics because she's like, look, this is terrible advice. Burn everything you've ever known about yourself. Get out your map and run away.
Yeah,
When
that's not
aim
actually
at the
great.
devil and don't miss. You're like the only like she's like, keep all your secrets. She's like, hey, look, if they ask you questions, don't even answer them. Like a lot of
Mm,
these aren't necessarily good, but her as a narrator knows, and her as the mastermind knows these aren't good because she literally says, hey, don't take my advice because I'm quite literally falling apart.
yep.
And there is something about the bridge of so I wander through these nights. I prefer hiding in plain sight. My fourth drink in my hand, these desperate prayers of a cursed man spilling out to you for free. But darling, please, you wouldn't take my word for it if you knew who was talking and if you knew I was going home all alone because nobody's there. And she's pacing in her pen because her friends found friends who care. And she's losing while playing a game all by herself. And
Yep.
it is like, it's just so. Anyway, I think the desperate prayers we're getting is TTPD. We're finally going to hear, like, she's like, these desperate prayers of a cursed man. And we spoke about this when we were talking about the
The
albatross. And
albatross. Yeah,
we're
I was
gonna,
waiting
this
for
is
you to
all
say
gonna
that.
come up. This is all gonna come up next episode. Wink, wink. We're gonna talk about those.
Yeah.
But we're going to get, I think we're finally going to get these desperate prayers. We're going to get the this is me trying of it all, where she's
Mhm.
like, well, it actually, Dear Reader's also a sad ending to This Is Me Trying because she's like, pouring my heart to the stranger, but I didn't pour
I
the
didn't pour the
whiskey.
whiskey, but here
But
she
in
is on
Dare
her
Reader,
fourth
she's like,
drink.
I'm on my fourth drink and I'm still telling you all of it.
Yep.
But she is still trying a little bit. Like she's at least trying to get the sign out of like, find someone else, find another guiding light because I have to find another guiding light as well.
Yeah, and I love this
Um,
idea you had about the two endings because
yeah,
as you talked about before, where she's excavating her present to figure out, or her past, excuse me, to figure out her present, she really saw that she had two lanes, two choices, kind of like a choose
yeah,
your own adventure, where
yeah,
am I going to end up on this track 13 mastermind track where I did mastermind my way. Like even the situation I'm in now, I'm going to mastermind my way out of it and it's going to be fine and I'm going to have a happy ending. Or
yeah,
is it, do I have to choose this path of breaking my life apart to try to rebuild it? And thank goodness she figured out she could and she could do it better
yeah.
than
She
ever.
figured out she could. And
Yeah.
I think it's especially important that Mastermind, the song Mastermind only works if the lover looks back and smiles and says, "It's okay, I know who you are and I know what you are," and
Yeah.
show the lover has to show up and smile and say, "I knew the entire time what you were
Yeah.
doing." Um,
But maybe they didn't show up.
and if they don't show up to your card game and you're stuck playing solitaire all alone, you just got to get out your map and run, like go. Like you can't
Dang.
be there no more. Um, but also on the other depression side,
Yeah, let's keep going.
let's keep going. God, this whole playlist is just doing my head in. The fact that Maroon is here, time for my Maroon theory.
Here we go.
Hannah, do you have anything to say about Maroon?
No, I just want to hear your theory again. Again, right? I think I've heard it before.
Okay, so my theory on Maroon is part of what's absolutely supports my main thesis on Midnights of her excavating her past. And I think Maroon is about it's about an older relationship, not about the one she was in when she was writing this. And we can also it's very explicitly about whoever Red is about. Obviously,
Hmm.
we know this because Maroon is a darker shade of red,
And she
and
was
there's
wearing
like
the red ring in the TikTok video.
and
Like,
there's also wait, go.
no, that's it.
Okay, like she's wearing the red ring, but there's also the point where even the chorus sounds like she is like it sounds like she's like the lips that used to go home so scarlet, and you kind of like sounds like she's coming in to interrupt herself to not say it was red, to say it was something deeper, darker. It was maroon, not red. Like
Mm.
that's how the chorus sounds to me. But specifically, my theory on maroon is that the legacy that is being left is what she's seeing in another partner. So the I wake with your memory over me. Let me hold on. I'm scrolling down. But the I wake with your memory over me is
Hmm.
like when she's in bed with other people and when she's seeing shades of this old relationship and whoever she's dating currently, and it's making her sad and it's making her confused and
Is it
she's trying to
because she's
parse through
making the
this.
same mistakes as she did with that person? Or is it just because of something that the partner is doing that reminds them of the old partner? What do you think is
I think it is both, specifically because we look at that second verse of the when the silence came, we were shaking blind and hazy. How the hell did we lose sight of us again? Sobbing with your head in your hands. Ain't this the way shit always ends? So it's like
it's
he
repeated
the sobbing with the head in the hands and the like just they're obviously pleading or something of they're doing something that reminds her of this past relationship. And also, one of the things we know about the current relationship, she has this proclivity to write about people showing up and or not showing up. And
yes.
we know all through the Red album, the muse never showed. Um
Yeah.
and so it's like if she's seeing shades of that in her in the current partner of Maroon, she's like it just makes sense. Like even all through Maroon, rust that grew between telephones, like you're
Because
not
they didn't
calling,
call. Oh my gosh.
the lips I used to call home, like the mark they saw on my collarbone. So like they used to see like
But then
marks
marks
all
can last a
over.
long time. That doesn't mean you've seen
Exactly.
them recently.
Yeah. The stained t-shirt of the relationship,
Even the standing
the
hollow-eyed in the
wine.
hallway, like they're not like
Yep.
the hallway is a transitory place. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
living room like it was in like the first or bedroom that was the first verse,
Exactly. Standing hollowed eye in the hallway reminds me, and it also, I'm gonna straight connect this to You're Losing Me.
which is the next song
Be
on the playlist.
you literally, so we're literally gonna do this really nice slide through, but the standing hollowed eye in the hallway literally connects to the towards the end of You're Losing Me. She says, I know my pain is such an imposition. Now you're running down the
The
hallway.
hallway.
And you know what they all say, don't know what you got until it's gone. Um,
Yeah, I
so
could
it's
totally
like,
see her having connected. Yeah, I mean, she does the hallway a lot for very transitory things. Like, is it your key in the hallway? It hits different,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
the very first night, I think it's like, remember, like I think they're running down the hallways there too. Like
Yeah.
it's like, where is it going? Is it leading to a good place, home,
There's an
or is it leading
implied
out the
hallway
door?
in
Yeah.
Exile too. Like if
So
you look
step
at
right out.
Exile,
Oh,
the step right, like instead it's implied
yeah,
that
holding all my
she,
things in the hallway kind of thing, right?
yeah, and it's implied that um in between the verses, and this may take some
I got it.
explaining.
Holding
So
all this love out here in the hall.
yes, thank you, thank you. But also there's a point where right before Bonnie Bear comes in, and you hear Taylor sing, so I'm leaving out the side door.
Yeah.
So implying leaving into a hallway to get out of this relationship. And Bonnie Bears comes in screaming, so step right out. Like he's yelling through the like opened up the main door to say, fine, leave, whatever. But yeah, so the hall is there as well. So Maroon is like the legacy is this old relationship that ended terribly and ended like driving a new mom's riding down a dead end street. It was a crash. Like that
Yeah.
ended so badly. She's seeing it again. It's a legacy. It's haunting her. It's stuck in, and she's seeing his actions in her new partner. And part of her, because hold on, let me go straight to the Midnight's track list because I think something came after Maroon on there that literally right after Maroon comes Anti-Hero. So
Right.
part of her is like, was it me? Am I the reason? Like, because
Yeah.
my depression works the midnight shift. All other people I ghosted stand there in the room. So like when she's depressed and she's waking up, or when she's like with her man, her current man, she's like, I'm seeing the ghosts of people that have left me, and that's what Maroon's about to me. And it slides just right into You're Losing Me, which I knew that You're Losing Me was going to be on this playlist.
Of course, there's no question. I mean, we could do a whole other hour on You're Losing Me, so we won't go too much more deeply
Yeah.
into that one.
Where's
But
Hits Different?
I don't think I've seen Hits Different on this
Is
one.
Hits Different not on any of the playlists?
But I
It's the
think it's
same reason
because
why
Save Us Cardigan's not on
Cardigan,
it
yeah,
because
it's
he
not
shows up.
allowed to be. He
Yep.
comes back.
Yep. Not
And
in
she's
this
like,
one.
LOL, that's not what happened. That's not real life, babes. You're crazy.
All right, let's wrap up this playlist then with
Yeah.
I for this one I have a song that I'm surprised was on the playlist, which is
Yes.
Carolina.
Really?
Because I tweeted it once I realized why. It's Carolina is the depressed version of the lakes, right? Like the lakes is right, is
Explain.
escaping with your muse, right? Like we
Hmm.
don't need anyone. It could just be you and me with calamitous grief and like in insurmount calamitous love, insurmountable
Calamitous
grief,
love, insurmountable grief.
insurmountable
Yeah.
grief, right? Wisteria and like all that stuff. But as long as you're here, I'm okay being isolated. But in Carolina, the song, she is straight up isolated. There is no one who gets it,
Oh.
no one who loves her.
Ooh.
She is alone. And then someone on Tumblr posted again on Cages, Boxes, Hunters, Foxes Tumblr of, like there they basically quote tweeted or they've shared a quote tweet of someone saying like if you watch the movie or you read the book you know that it's about this girl who's been isolated her whole life. She's a very sweet nice girl,
Hmm.
but a young age she was rejected by society, and then even when she falls in love she's again like rejected. And if you read Taylor's little blurb about it, she literally says like, you know, what it feels like to be a little girl on the outside looking in. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I did not catch any of that, right? Like
I
this like
know.
this she understood this girl because she felt that isolation before. She's felt how
Mm,
deeply sad it is to feel disconnected and misunderstood,
no,
completely
exactly.
misunderstood. If you read the book, especially, you see how completely misunderstood. I say the
Yeah.
book because I haven't seen the movie. But anyway, that to me was
Yeah.
surprising, but it made sense.
I will say none of these surprised me, but what did stick out to me is We Were Happy because first of all, how underrated, but
Facts.
it signals to me that Taylor did what I did and that she recognizes the connection between We Were Happy to You're Losing Me because there's a line in
Yep.
We Were Happy that and you were going to marry me because we
Oh
were
gosh.
happy.
Oh, you just got me. You were saving that for Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
And it literally happens like at the end because okay, the first time
Oh
she
gosh.
does this bait and switch. She's like talking about your daddy's farm we were gonna buy someday and we were happy. And she continually says we were going to buy someday. And then at the end, she changes it to talking about your daddy's farm and you were going to marry me.
Oh my, this is why people need
We
to
were
subscribe
happy.
to this podcast. No, but even like this first verse, right? When we stuck into the circus, you threw your arms around my neck back when I deserved it, right? This
I
whole
know.
blaming of herself,
Yeah.
also very much part of the
Because yeah. And especially because the whole bridge of it, I can't help these voices telling me I'm not a love anymore. And they don't give me choices. And that's what these tears are for. She's like, I know it's the end. And we were happy is the depression that comes with when you know you have to end it.
oh my gosh, I'm gonna barf. Thank
Which,
you for that.
I wonder, you're welcome. And I'm wondering, like, ugh, part of me is like trying to jump ahead to our next episode where I'm like gonna guess what song on TTPD is
Hold
going
it.
to be the I knew I had to end it song.
Oh yeah, but
I'm
hold it,
holding it.
hold
I'm
it.
holding it.
We have
Okay,
one more
hold it. Okay.
playlist. We can do
Okay,
this. We can do
okay.
this.
We can
Okay,
do
last but not least, I can do it with a broken heart. This is the acceptance stage. Obviously, you're on your own, kid is the first one. And I want to
which
jump,
duh.
which duh.
Yeah.
And it's literally the one that's changed her life. The friendship
Yes.
bracelet line.
Yes.
This is also the one where she referenced in her speech. You're
Mm-hmm.
on your own, kid, her NYU acceptance speech. And so just a little throwing out
Yeah.
there. But I do
You're on
think,
your own kid makes me want to cry.
well, happy and sad tears, which is
Is yeah.
fascinating. But I do think it's interesting that she's put Midnight Rain on here, where
Yeah.
I think it's for two reasons. One is I think Taylor has I think hopefully come more to a place where she can better manage her fame. And I think for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, almost her whole life, it's been very difficult. But maybe she is at a place where she's confident enough in herself and what she wants and who she is, where I'm okay with choosing this fame, this life of fame. Not that that's the specific what she's going for, but
Yeah.
it's going to come with
I
her
think
music.
she's like figure I think it's to the point of I don't have to have either or.
Yeah.
I can have both.
Yeah. And the other reason why I like this song is kind of as like the conclusion to Bejeweled in a way. And
Yeah.
like if I'm Bejeweled, it means I am going to be Rain. I'm going to be Midnight Rain. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that because that's who I am and that's who I've always been. And so I think it's fascinating that her acceptance of who she is as Taylor Swift, which who contains multitudes, and one of those multitudes being famous Taylor Swift, is
Mm-hmm.
something she has accepted.
Yeah. I think for me it's really interesting to have Labyrinth here
Mm.
because you know my whole thing about
Oh
Labyrinth
my
where I'm
gosh.
like Labyrinths house monsters on the hill. They house a monster. And
So yeah, if you don't
it's
know the Greek mythology, the labyrinth held this monster called the Minotaur, a man with a
mhm.
bull head, and he would chase and eat humans. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. And you know, she's a man eater if you believe what they used to say about her. So, um, but I think it's so interesting because I've always held Labyrinth as a bittersweet song, and so many of these songs on I Can Do It with a Broken Heart are so bittersweet. Because for me, Labyrinth was a the monster in the labyrinth pleading for like help and pleading for like you've stopped it once, you can stop it again. You can turn the plane back around. But it also has like I think she's also picking up on that beautiful uh-oh, I'm falling in love. Oh no, I'm falling in love part. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm falling in love.
Yep.
And that's why it's so bittersweet to me because I think it's the acknowledgement of the labyrinth is always going to be in my head and I'm always going to have these parts of myself like Midnight Rain, but
Hmm.
it's like fully coming into it, I think, and it just feels so nice.
I also think this track list is just so chaotic. I think as acceptance is like, for example, right? Invisible String is in here, right? Followed immediately by Happiness. right? Followed immediately by
She,
long story short.
and all of this, like in the acceptance and in the heartbreak and like in the ending and like coming to terms with loss and finding peace, specifically with having long story short and invisible string into happiness into long story short, and she's like, it's complicated because happiness is
Yeah.
an angry song. Like
Yeah. She's
she
not
is
there yet.
angry.
Yeah.
She's like, maybe I'll forgive you in the future,
Yeah.
but I'm pissed. I'm not above the trees. One day I will be, and it'll be fine. But
Yeah.
I maybe not even ever be fine, but I'm angry. And I feel like a part of acceptance is acknowledging that you're still allowed to be angry about it, and be angry about what happened. And that's what happiness to me is her being like, I'm gonna be angry about it, and that's gonna give like there'll be happiness after you, yes. And I'm gonna be happy with other people, but I can still be angry. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and there are like beautiful love songs here, like This Love, right? Daylight,
Love came
Begin
back to
Again.
me.
Yeah.
Clean. Begin again, being there is so oh
You should see
and
Exquisite's face.
but I think the most like all one actually being here is breathe.
Let's talk about
Bec-
that. I want to talk
because
about that.
like oh my God, because breathe to me is it's so heartbreaking because it's like not only was this person someone who you loved, but they were
Hmm.
also your best friend.
Yup.
And you don't have them anymore. And it's
Yup.
like I can't breathe. And it literally is like the spiritual conclusion to Cornelia Street, which is like the spiritual sequel, even though it came first. But Cornelia Street, she's like, I'm never gonna walk Cornelia Street again. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die if this happens. And then in Breathe, she's like, I can't breathe without you, but I have to.
Can I blow
And
your mind
I
a
will.
little?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay, so actually no, I sent you some of this. So once again, my friend
yeah.
Ariana, on Race with Me, where she talked about, right, like that final gasp that she has of that
Yeah.
breath. And we hear it in You're Losing Me, where she does that
Hmm.
final sigh and that and losing the pulse. But then what does she end this playlist with? A new breath, where she
Breathe.
has to
I
breathe
know.
again, right?
I know. Ugh. And it's so like, and the I'm sorries on this song have always like given me chills because the apology, I'm like, the apology is twofold, I think. The apology is to herself for thinking that she wouldn't be able to move on. So she's like, I'm sorry to myself for thinking that I wouldn't have never been able to breathe again. And I don't know, the whole like ending the it's never simple, never easy, never a clean break, no one here to save me.
Mhm.
And she's like, I can't breathe, but I have to. And I think so much, and I think we've talked about this, about how tour and the Eras tour was this like lifeline,
Yep.
and how she got up on stage and just took a deep breath and was like, I'm going to be fine,
Yep.
is just a whole thing. A whole thing. It's so good. And I love that the acceptance playlist is so complicated and so confusing on here.
Yes. No, I think that there is so
And
much
it, yeah,
power to give to show people like, hey, like, and even right now, I'm sure Taylor is going literally bouncing around
yeah,
with it, not only within this stage, but even the other stages, right? Of
yeah.
like maybe
Because it's
not as
not
much.
linear.
Yeah.
They should invent a healing that's linear, I think.
Wouldn't that be nice? But
Yeah,
even
but
within this
it, yeah,
acceptance, right, there is anger. There is there is times where you
denial.
yeah, denial.
Because
There's
I forgot that you existed
forgiveness.
is right in there.
Yeah, yeah. There's
She's like, oh, you don't exist.
but then there's also like innocent, right? Like
Hmm.
a very condescending maybe, but also forgiving
Yeah.
song. But
I also think none of the, hold on. I would, well, I think it's interesting how none of the forgiveness feels aimed at whatever broke her heart entirely to me.
explain that
Like like and this is my idea of like innocent coming right after breathe and the fact that happiness is on
right
here.
before breathe.
Y yeah, I meant before, not after. Thank you.
Just to
I'm
clarify,
like looking
just
at
for
it.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the fact that all of these, it literally goes now that we don't talk to begin again to innocent to breathe, which is now that we don't talk is like we're over, but I still know you're still, I know everything about you
Hmm.
and I'm mad at you. And I thought I wouldn't be able to breathe, but I can. And I thought I would be able, I would have forgiven you by now, but I don't. But I still am thinking these things like I don't wish you harm, maybe.
Yeah, I don't
But
wish you harm, I think is the right. I don't, yeah, maybe forgiveness is too strong of a word, but I don't wish you
yeah,
harm. Let's no
but I'm
contact.
still, yeah, I'm still pissed off. We don't
Yeah.
talk to each other,
I mean, yeah,
but
she has the song
yeah,
Closure on here, right? Like I don't need it.
yeah.
Like it's I'll
And
burn all the
the fact that
letters.
closure is here, exactly. She's like, I don't need you to talk to me, but I need you to know. And this is like Begin Again being on here with the I know everything that you do is like, and I know everything about you. There's this verse in Begin Again that always like makes me crazy of the like the like you never did these things for me, or like you didn't think I was funny but I think I'm funny, and like this
Yeah.
reclamation of like everything that I loved,
Yes.
um and like being able to move on while still thinking the crazy thing about it Begin Again is that she still has all these emotions toward this other person, but she's allowing herself to meet, be met by somebody new, and to not get lot like literally I'm thinking of that verse, the and we walked down the block to my car, I almost brought him up, but you start to talk about the movies that your family watches every single Christmas, and now I want to talk about that, and
No, I
I
love
can
that
put the
because
past behind me.
I think that's what she's doing now in her life is, she's able to be like, hey, like these things that might have reminded me of you, I'm going to now make different memories so that they think they remind you of something else. And that's what she told us with the
Yeah,
Eras tour, right? Like
yeah,
all these songs, I want to take you on a musical journey these past 17,
exactly.
18 years. And every time you think about these songs, I want you to think about the moments, the memories
She's
we've
like,
made
think
here.
about us.
Yeah. And that is
um
so powerful in the road towards
yes,
healing.
it's so interesting, and that's why I'm like, you don't, if this song is still a love song, songs are still love songs to you, they can still be love songs.
Yes.
Even if she's like looking at them and she's like, "Oh, I did. This was crazy to me now," but it can still exist. And I think, and I'm just gonna circle back to what I was saying about Maroon and about, and also with Antihero, with living with the shades of your past all around you,
Hmm.
is I think she's no longer allowing these ghosts, these phantoms to haunt her. They're just shades. They exist. And sometimes she interacts with them. And but she is still, she's still here to tell us, and she's still like, she's not letting them haunt her existence anymore.
Yeah.
She's not going to be waking in the middle of the night, hopefully scream about them. And if she does, she can talk through it and
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. Like it'll be fine. You're going to be okay is what
You're,
it is. And
yeah.
I am like,
You can face
now
this.
you're on your own, kid. You can face this. Exactly. No, and I'm like, and when I'm thinking about TTPD, and I'm wondering, I think if we're gonna have any song that has that, I think we may get one, and then I think we may get like cracks of light sometimes. But I do see this album as a very angry, very dark. But I will also say, in the words of Florence and the Machine,
Yes.
literally,
We love
it
Florence.
is it is always darkest before the dawn. And right before you have midnights, and then we have quite literally the dark hours
Hmm.
right before dawn happens. So TS12 may be bright and shiny, but we're not theorizing that far because we have things to focus on. But
Yes.
yeah, no, it's just like we're about to get into the real weeds of it all.
Hmm. It's fascinating with like the album releases we've had so far this year, from Eternal Sunshine to Cowboy Carter. Like we haven't really had like a heart, like even Deeper Well, like we haven't really had a heartbreak one. And so this
Yeah.
one I think is gonna
Like
really cause an impact.
I think with Eternal Sunshine, because I did just give that I a review. I mean, I just revisited it. I don't think it was as darkly contemplative as I think TTPD is going to be.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think Eternal Sunshine was like focus trying to focus in on I'm gone, but there's this happening now and I have this new person. While I think TTPD is like, nah, we got to get in the weeds. We are in
Yeah,
the
in the valley of the shadow of death.
yeah, we're in the Valley of the Shadow of Death. We are in the opening to happiness. I think we're in that part. You know the line,
Yep.
darling, when I'm above the trees, I can see this for what it is, but I'm right down in it. We are literally in that first verse of we're in that first verse of
Yeah.
happiness. And it's about to get I'm like none of us are probably prepared. And I was saying, and you guys are listening, you can use that hashtag and tell us as well. Like, do you think there's ever been a release where you're as nervous or scared for? And I'm not talking about like sonically. I trust Taylor to do what she needs to do sonically. I don't like whatever it
Yeah.
is, I know I'm gonna love it. I'm scared
Yeah.
for the
Fear.
lyrical
Fear is
content.
the word that comes up when I think about TTPD because we know she's not going to do a lead single, and that's fine. But I think with Reputation, you've explained this to me before, like no one was really scared. It was just like, what is she going to do? Anticipatory, maybe more like. And
Yeah,
Lover,
it was
we
like
we
very
had like
excited.
we had the rollout for Lover, Folklore, Evermore. People again more
We didn't know that was
excited.
happening.
Yeah,
We didn't even know. So it was just like it wasn't a fear. It was like, oh my goodness, this is happening in 12 hours.
yeah. But this one, she's let us sit in the darkness for a really
She's
long time.
literally she's sitting, she is icing us. We're in the dark, and she has been prepping us in the ways that she knows how, where
Yeah.
she is like, I think we are going to get some form of trigger warnings, and I think she gave us a trigger warning.
Yeah, I think today was
In
definitely a trigger warning.
the depression one
Yeah.
was the trigger. She gave us a trigger warning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just so concerned about what we're gonna find out. And I can't wait to for Eris Tour to come back so we can hear what she talks when she talks about it.
Yeah.
Um, and all I'm gonna say is that prologue is scaring the life out of me. I'm so scared. I'm so scared
The
for the
little
prologue.
poem she wrote.
That, but I'm scared for the prologue when we get the
Oh, for
actual
the actual
album
prologue we'll get. Yeah,
because
that'll
I
be when
can
we get that. Yeah.
I can barely handle the Midnight's prologue,
Yeah. Oh, which we
which
didn't
we'll
even get
talk
to
about
because
next episode.
guys, we had this whole script plan for you. If my husband
She
Jason, who's
wrecked our
puts
plans.
on the intro music, we were gonna talk about the intro music too, but we'll get to it. Well,
She
this is
wrecked our
already
plans.
that's our
That's
woman.
I was just say that evil blonde. We had it planned out, but no. So we're gonna have to get into that next week. And next week is when we'll properly do our like we'll talk about
What we think the album is
what
from what she's given
yeah.
us, like the
And
variants and
especially
stuff.
with these playlists as well and like what we have for the song. We'll talk about all of
And
that.
she might do another thing next week too. So,
I think she will. So
yeah,
we'll have that. Yeah. I mean,
great.
I'm like speechless. Anyway, thanks for talking,
Thanks for
Hannah.
tuning in. Thanks. We kind of meandered, but we hope you give us a little grace.
Um,
And
yeah.
we will talk to you guys hopefully soon.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and also our hashtag TTPD seminar so we can see your thoughts as you're listening to this.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah. Because we're in the TTPD cycle, please do hashtag TTPD seminar.
yes.
Yes, and we'll.
Um, but yeah,
Oh,
I'm
oh
oh
wait, I
and
want to do the thing.
yeah,
Please don't
yeah.
forget to like and subscribe, share this podcast, give us 5 stars.
Share the link. That was great, Hannah.
Thank you. I've always heard it, but like I've never, done it. Um, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know if that's true, but
We
we're in
will
a
be
bunch of
soon
places.
eventually.
If you
But
need
yeah.
us on another platform, please let me know. I'll figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah, so
happy
follow
listening,
Hannah at
everyone.
Sipping
Oh,
August.
yes.
Follow Hannah at Sipping August.
Follow Exquisite at Exquisite Will. And our art is by the wonderful Aleph Vernon. You could follow him at Aleph
And
with an F Vernon.
who's our music
Oh
by?
gosh. Now I'm East something? Our music is by East Love at East Love Music. They're an indie band from New York. And we'll talk
Yeah.
hopefully more about them next time.
Yeah.
All right,
Taylor
bye
just threw
everyone.
us off. Okay.
Bye.